You wish to end this? Then we must stop fighting amongst ourselves and face that the price for it may be dear, for one would rather die than spend my life in hiding. The sheriff calls us outlaws, but I say we are free. And one free man defending his home is more powerful than 10 hired soldiers.
Well done.
If you truly believe in your hearts that you are free, then I say we can win.
The sheriff's taking all they got, too.
And by God, we take it back.
What's up, guys? Benny. Tucker Carlson gave a impassioned speech to an event in Indiana for Turning Point USA, and in it there was a Q&A. Tucker doesn't normally do this, but he was able to field questions from the audience, and one that I think was asked in relative good faith, except for Tucker Carlson offered to actually fight the guy if he brought up his father again. He said, your dad was in the CIA. And Tucker had great umbrage to that. Anyway, the point is that the clip is remarkable. The kid asks, why don't I see any policy differences between the Trump administration and the Biden administration? And to that end, Tucker Carlson goes into a beautiful exposition of what America First actually means and how broken our systems in Washington are. He gives some insights and some backgrounds into how the Trump administration is trying to fix the broken systems of Washington, particularly the forever wars. And then also, of course, the fascinating defense of his father, who recently passed. Tucker wrote a beautiful eulogy to him. You can find it on X if you're interested anymore in that or that story. So, ladies and gentlemen, Tucker Carlson's answer here, which I think is just profound, fascinating, and very much worth a listen right here.
So I kind of just don't see a lot of change between, the Biden administration and now the Trump one in foreign policy. We're still giving a shit ton of money to Israel and Ukraine. Nothing is happening. The war's not stopped. He promised it'd be done in a day, and it's, I don't know, how many months? 8 months or something like that. It's a long time. Your dad was in the CIA, and I was wondering, does our government even want war to stop? Do they want conflicts to end? It seems like we have a difference of interests where we're getting told one thing and the other is happening, and I feel like there's not enough communication between different sects of government. And I really think the deep state's controlling everything, and we have no control.
Well, let me start at, obviously, you probably sense that I agree with a lot of that. Obviously, leave my father out of it. I'm gonna have to kick your ass, which I could do, by the way, if you bring him up again, because he was a wonderful man, whatever he did for a living. So I really do hate that. But leaving that aside. And don't test me, son. I hate to say I agree with a lot of what, I think you probably know I agree with a lot of what you've said, and it's enormously frustrating. It's shocking, actually. And I do know, I'm not shilling, I just happen to know some of the people who work in the administration who are people who agree with you strongly. I think most Trump voters agree with you. That's why they voted for Donald Trump in the first place. And, no pointless wars was not just a thing he said at one campaign stop. It was a pillar of his campaigns and of MAGA itself. I mean, what is MAGA? There's a mad scramble, particularly since Charlie's passing, to define what this is and to read some people out of the movement. You're not MAGA. Well, what is MAGA? Well, MAGA is 5 things, okay? MAGA is America First, which means Americans should put no country before America. American interests come first. That's not a crazy idea. No pointless wars, period. And by pointless, I mean wars fought on behalf of an ideology or another nation are totally unacceptable. They weaken this country. Wars fought because somebody running a country is bad. Okay, is bad. You're telling me a world leader's bad? All right. Yeah, no. It's impoverished, it's dramatically weakened this country. Its social fabric, its treasury, it's killed so many Americans, and it's really weakened America's position globally. So no pointless wars. Bring back American jobs, right? Of meaningful jobs. The call centers have moved to South Asia, AI's crushing the lawyers. What do Americans do for a living? Think deeply about that and work to make work a reality for people. I mean, you all are, I assume, still in college. Wait till you graduate. I have a child who just graduated college. Once a week, I'm like, how many of your friends, and these are all smart, pretty affluent, kind of connected, cute girls. How many of your friends have jobs in New York City? 4 out of 10. That's a disaster, actually. And someone needs to be thinking about that deeply, and the promise of MAGA was that somebody would. And then, of course, immigration. You have to control who comes in and out of your country, or else you're not a country. And I know that it's considered highly controversial to say that the population of America is being replaced by people from other countries, but it's not controversial. It's a mathematical fact, and the numbers are taken by the U.S. Census, and that's just true. Now, some people are for it. I'm against it. I'm from here. I'm against that. I'm against replacing the current population. And it's happening in this country. It's completely happening in Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, and the UK. It's happening to the English-speaking world. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I'm totally opposed, and so is everyone who voted for Donald Trump. That's not a conspiracy theory. It's a mathematical reality. And stop it now. And the 5th pillar of MAGA, just to be totally clear, is free speech, because it's our birthright as Americans. And so when we talk about cancel culture or the woke or against what does that even mean? It means people who are attempting to abridge my ability to speak freely about what I actually believe. That's what that is. It's an attack on free speech. And by the way, the second Trump gets elected, all these people show up who I've never heard of, who are MAGA people. I can't hear you. Can you scream louder? I love the solidarity fist. And
they're saying Tep is Taos.
I couldn't hear what she said, but this is why I'm such an unpleasant person that brings it out of me, and I'm going to really try to be a nice person to screechy. Oh, I could hear that. Anyway. There's all of a sudden this attempt to limit what people can say in public, and it's by people who claim to be MAGA. It's insane. And I'm really shocked by it. So again, those are the 5 pillars of MAGA. To be clear, I didn't make them up. Donald Trump articulated them consistently for 10 years, a full decade. He's dominated American politics for 10 years on the basis of those 5 ideas. And a central one of those 5, the 5 pillars of Donald Trump, is no pointless wars. He ran on it. He talked about it extensively. He explained why he thought it, including in interviews with me. And, I will give allowances that the world is super complicated and conflicts are very hard to end. Easy to start, hard to end, which is why you don't enter into them lightly. It's like marriage. Pretty easy to get married, go to Vegas, hard to get divorced. And that is true for wars. And so I will allow that because I'm familiar with some of the details. It's hard. But it's not that hard. And it's not as hard as some people pretend it is. And you know who the bad actors are. Zelensky's a bad actor. Okay, he's a dictator. He's not the elected president of Ukraine. And he has set about methodically trying to eliminate traditional Christianity from Ukraine. How about no? I'm not sending you money for that. I'm a Christian. No. And so, again, there's a lot going on, but I think anybody who begins negotiations or attempts to influence negotiations between Russia and Ukraine who takes Zelensky seriously is making a mistake and probably prolonging a war that is basically genocidal for Ukraine. I feel sorry for the Ukrainians. There will be no Ukraine. But Zelensky allowed a law to go through the lawmaking body of Ukraine that legalized the sale of land in Ukraine to foreigners. That's a fact. And now the male population of Ukraine has been so completely decimated. Of course, they lie about the numbers, but hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian men have died. It's like, oh, we're going to need to fill Ukraine with foreigners just because we have no labor force. So ask yourself, in a generation, will Ukraine be Ukrainian? Or will it be like Canada, New Zealand, Australia, the UK, and the United States? Will it have turned over in population? Will it be a different country? And the answer is probably. And there's nothing worse than that, actually. There's nothing worse than that, to take an ancient indigenous population and just eliminate them. And that's exactly what they're doing. And no one's saying that, and Zelensky is leading it. So hard no to him. And then on the Middle Eastern stuff, look, we have a lot of leverage. And you sound informed, I'm not going to continue, but I mean, we pay for the whole thing. So we're not going to pay for this anymore, okay? So it's like if my kids are acting in some outrageous way, you can be like, don't do drugs or study hard in school. But ultimately, you will find out when you become a parent, which I hope is soon, have kids young, you will find out that your real leverage is economic. You're paying for this crap. And so if it really comes down to it and your kid is just wasting his time in college, you could go nuclear and say, I'm not paying for it. Get a job in the kitchen. What? Kids are every bit as entitled as Netanyahu. You know, what? Work for it? But you can do that. And sometimes you have to do that. And we've reached the point where I think we have to do it because the cost to the United States is profound. So yes, I'm agitated on those two questions. I share your frustration. And you don't want to, my father aside, you don't want to live in a country controlled by people whose names you don't know. They work for agencies whose funding is secret. Like, if you actually knew the influence of a couple or more than a couple of federal agencies, some of which you probably have never heard of, on American politics and global affairs, you'd be even more freaked out than you are. So yes, I'm upset about it, very. Thank you for pissing me off more.
Can I leave a final remark?
Yeah, of course.
This is something like not political, but I think you like talking about it. Are aliens a religious or extraterrestrial subject?
They're spiritual entities.
They're spiritual beings.
Is my view, yes. Okay. And I don't think they're from another planet. I don't think there's any evidence of that. Or perhaps they are, but they've been resident here for recorded history, and there's every reason to believe for eternity. And this is my belief, and I think there's a lot there. There's also a lot of lying about it and official disinformation designed to confuse people or make you look ridiculous. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that you read about that subject that was put there in order to get you off the trail. And I'm not guessing at this. Some of it's been declassified. There's been a persistent 75-year effort by the United States government to confuse the population about what these things are that we can see in the sky. And many people have seen. But after looking into it, pretty extensively for a number of years, off camera, my conclusion is that they are the spiritual entities that are described, in the Old Testament, in Ezekiel, but also, I would say, in the sacred texts of all kinds of religions around the world. This is not, basically, I'll stop at this, but our culture is anomalous in the sense that we exclude the possibility of a spiritual realm. And that's only been true in the United States since August of 1945 when we dropped the atom bomb, which was the turning point in history, in my opinion. And it was the beginning of the total destruction of the West, which unfortunately we're witnessing now. And that destruction began with, the same lie that begins all destruction, which is I am God. Hubris is the end, always. It was the point of the Tower of Babel. It's the end of every leader. Every leader who's like, I'm very powerful, I have godlike powers, that leader will be destroyed. And a nation that believes that will be destroyed. And the atom bomb gave us the sense, the false sense, very false sense, that we had absolute power, dominion over nature and mankind itself. And we started making a lot of really bad decisions. And one of the results of that was faith died in the United States. It's resurging now, thank God, literally. But for my whole childhood, I was born in 1969, the year that we walked on the moon. And just kidding, sort of, maybe. I have no idea. I'm not going to find out. I'm not going to find out. I've got enough problems. I don't want to know. But anyway, the point is, I was born that year, and for my entire life up until recently, no one I knew in my world, which is coastal, affluent, well-educated, not that I'm well-educated, but everyone else around me is, no one ever talked about God at dinner. That was the spiritual realm was kind of a joke that is kind of a trailer park belief or who knows what. They're handling snakes. They make TV shows about it. Like, no one believed that. And when you don't believe that, you kind of miss everything because it is real, whether you want it to be or not. That's literally real. It's absolutely real. It's as real as this podium. And so to someone living even 100 years ago, the idea that these are, of course, angels, demons, they're manifestations of the spiritual battle ongoing since the beginning of time, that would have been obvious. And instead we're like, maybe they flew in rocket ships from Mars. And do we have a telescope powerful enough to detect that? Oh, shut up. You're missing the obvious, dude.